Welcome home. It's Irish Family History with curious news and notes, celebrating our 4th year of this podcast at the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day's a holiday and there's always room for one more. One of 6 broadcast series from the head school at irishroots.com. I'm Mike OLaughlin, your host, publisher of rare Irish books and information on every county in Ireland since 1978. Be sure to read our blog, complete with links to click on from this podcast, and search our master index and books for free. Molly, wet the tea, Katie, bar the door, Sweeney, clear that floor, and bring out the Irish dancers. It's time we get this show on the road. Oh, well, it's show number 163 today. Irish family history and genealogy with curious news and notes from Ireland. Hey, among today's topics at the Irish Roots Cafe, the family of the day is Bellew. The Irish county of the month is County Meath. Searching for England, O'Connell, and Burke. Curious news includes whales and salmons abounding. The webpage of the month, 5,000 monthly are leaving Ireland. You can read all about it. Number 6, video of the month, guide to County Meath. And number 7, our 1-minute podcast, all about wolf tone and napper tandy, and even a little bit of a song there. So I think you're going to like it. You might even laugh a little bit at the song. I don't know. But it's a good one today, so stay tuned. It's coming right up. We'll be right back in about, 10, 15 seconds? Oh, thank you for the 2 Bridgets there. They gave us our little introduction music, and we surely thank them for that. And it's time for the notes this week about what's happening at the Irish Roots Cafe. Number 1, our book on Irish songs, singers, and sheet music should be delivered this week but from the printer, and it includes things from old Irish airs to Tin Pan Alley, so you might enjoy it. It's got a lot of good shots of that sheet music cover and history in there as well. Well, we're looking forward to it. Got a link to that book on the blog. Number 2, I'm now working on DNA and genealogy book. It's going to be real interesting. That DNA stuff is really something else, and I have to read it 10 times before I even start to understand each principle. But we've got our DNA page that I'm putting together. I have a link on the blog to that, too. And we're almost ready for that Dublin Irish Festival. We'll be taking off for it, real quick here. And that's where they have the academy classes also that are in genealogy, and they've got musical instruments they're teaching and all kinds of things on Friday. And if you go to the academy, you get a free ticket to the festival on Friday. So, boy, you can have one heck of a Friday, I'm telling you. And lots of other classes, like I said, so be sure to check that out. I've got a link on the blog. That's the Dublin, Ohio Irish Academy and Festival, so enjoy it. I know that I'm going to do that. And let me see. We're coming up to the 1-minute podcast. We're going to listen to an excerpt from the Hedgerow History podcast, all about wolf tone and tandy in the 17th century and the rising and Catholics and Protestants. And, well, let's see what we picked out today. It's good to be back here. Yes, it's coming right up. It is the podcast about the 17th century. We actually did 3 shows on the 17th century. That's really one of the most momentous centuries Ireland's ever had, I'm telling you, as far as change in land ownership and what have you. Let's take a listen in right now. Who were formed first up there in Ulster by none other than Theobald Wolfetone. And in Dublin, they were formed by, or led by, that other famous figure who's part of that very famous song, Napper Tandy. It went like, oh, I met with Napper Tandy, and he took me by the hand, and he asked, how's dear old Ireland, and how does she stand? And there's a whole story about him, and I've never seen a person viewed in so many different ways in my life. He was a hero in France, and Napoleon came to his aid, and he was hated in England. and he was an overnight hero for trying to boycott the English businesses in Dublin. All of Ireland rose up in his favor, and he was, of course, friends with Wolfe Tone. But when they went to France and they met with the government, Wolfe Tone thought he was getting a little uppity, and he was saying that he was bigger than he was, and they were both vying for attention and leadership. And he's just a very interesting character.
Napper Tandy was he was the chief adjutant in the business and a sturdy veteran under Tone.
Yes.
So I mean, they were working together.
Yeah, and I think they both, when they were exiled, they had their organization, the United Irishmen, started off more peaceful, but it became a secret society. Then it was outlawed. Then they both fled. I've read that they both fled to America. Well, that's it for the podcast excerpt for the day. That gives you an idea of what we talk about, but we also talk about things other than Tandy and Wolfe Tone and Napoleon. I think gets in the game there for a little bit there. We talk about the other parts of the century, the first half, sort of the unknown century in Ireland, where a lot of things were quietly coming together, coalescing, I think you might say. But now it's time to move on to the book of the day. Oh, what have we picked today to go with our name? I think we've picked the County Meath and West Meath, Ireland book to start with, Genealogy and Family History Notes. I've got a link to that on the blog, and that goes right along with our 29-volume set. The Irish Families Great and Small is Volume 1, and the master index to the whole thing with family histories from every county, including Meath. And then this book here that we're talking about looks just at County Meath and West Meath. And it's volume 21 in a series, and it expands on the coverage that we had in that volume 1, the master volume to the Irish Families Project, with some extra families and some new resources just for Meath and West Meath. And how can you not like that? Now, some of the big families there, they were Riley and Smith and Lynch and Brady and Farrell E. Kelly, Bryan. Boy, but Bryan and O'Brien you can find in so many places. Daly, McGuire, Duffy, Dunn, Byrne, O'Connor, Mahon, Clark, Martin, and Matthews. And you can spell all those names so many ways. The 17th century, they started putting an E on the end to a lot of names that today don't have an E on the end of them, so be aware of that too. The second book we're going to talk about is The Bellews of Mount Bellew, a Catholic family in the 18th century Ireland. And that's a hardbound book with a genealogy chart and notes. And if you're a Bellew, I think you're going to want to get this book. Now, I mean a Bellew, Bellew, as in the surname, not if you're blue, if you're feeling sad and blue, not that kind of blue. This is Bellew. So there's a second one for you. And if you're a researcher in that area, you're going to want it. And remember, we've got three things. We've got a podcast. We've got a blog that gives information that's not on the podcast a lot of times. And then we have a blog reader, which is that little computer thing that just reads exactly what we typed into the blog. So we're making our efforts. And of course, we're on Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and all those things. So there's always a way to get a hold of us. That's for sure. And coming up a little bit later, did you know that soon you're going to be able to actually buy and pay cold hard cash for a certificate of Irish heritage? Boy, and then you can prove that you're Irish. Bah humbug, I say. I haven't seen it yet. It may be okay. But there's something that just doesn't sound right about that. Buying a certificate of Irish heritage? I don't know. Genealogical research is one thing, but it's got a funny sound to it. I just don't know what to say. But now we're coming up to the time of the Magnificent Seven. Well, raise your eyes skyward now and give thanks and ask for help. We all need it, especially in this genealogical research. Number one, welcome new member Brenda Stamp of North Island, New Zealand. I'm researching the Anglins from Boherbew, Cork, and the O'Connells of County Kerry. Would love to find information on Michael Barry Anglin. might be born 1826, and his two wives, Honoria Lane, spelled several different ways, which is common with that Lane name, and Julia Greene. Number 2, the Australian Institute of Genealogical Studies. Boy, we're down under today, aren't we? Your books have shipped, and that was a fine order indeed. Number 3, Mary Moffat of Bozeman, Montana. Welcome as a new member. Searching for Burke and Hager. She says, my grandfather, James Paul Burke, was born on May 28, 1887 in Kansas City, Missouri. Little's known of him. He moved to Seattle in the early 1900s, and he was a musician on the drums. Hey, we've got that in common. I was a drummer, too, when I was younger. He married my grandmother, Ruth Hager, don't know the year, and they had 3 children. So that's very interesting. More about that on the blog if you're interested, and you can contact Mary or let me know you need to contact anybody on these lists, and I'll sure send a message to the folks. Number 4, Laura Blackburn of Boone, Iowa. The birth index and 1659 census have shipped, and J.O. McLaughlin of Joplin, Maryland, your Irish Book of Arms and Kings and Queens County genealogy book has shipped. So thanks to all of our members. Without you guys, this would never be possible. Let's see, what's the family name of the day today? It's Bellew, like I was talking, and you can spell it almost like Bellows sometimes, or B-E-L-L-O-W. That'd be almost like below. But B-E-L-L-E-W is probably the commonest that we've seen, and we're doing this in honor of member Matthew Bellew, looking for Bellews, and particularly Bellews of County Meath. And related spellings of the name is, even Bailey has been confused with Bellew. And you can spell it B-E-L-U-E or B-A-L-L-O-U. That's how they spelled Cat Bellew, wasn't it? And even B-E-L-Y-E-U, which sounds like Bellew. So I've got a list of those on the blog taken from the various guide to the various spellings of Irish family names. And just a few notes on the name. According to Keating's history, the name is given as among the great families of either English or Norman descent, settled in County Meath in early times, so you're in the right county there. And the Bellews achieved the title of Barons of Duleek in County Louth. And note also that there's a Bellew, B-E-L-E-W cemetery in Lauderdale County, Alabama. And what else have we got here? We're going to check out Bellew in the Irish Book of Arms, and what do we find? We're finding that there are 2 Bellew families found in the Irish Book of Arms that I put together several years back, and they date from 1722 and 1768 with a few genealogical notes. We've got a note they were settled in Bellewstown, and they are also found in County Dublin even earlier than that, according to that work, and they both appear to have similar arms. Their arms do appear black and white in that book from original sources, and one of them even has a motto, a family motto, displayed below the crest itself. So that makes up for some interesting reading, I think. And hey, you know what? Coming up later this episode, we've got a little note on the oldest known version of Sweet Molly Malone. Now, wouldn't you know they'd find that the week after I go to press on a book that has Molly Malone as one of the songs? Of course, this new version doesn't include the words cockles and mussels, and that, of course, was one of the key parts of that whole song. You come to that chorus, cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Well, without that, it might be a whole different song altogether. But they found it in a bookstore in Wales, and it's got a little bit different words to it, but it brings it back to a date earlier than anybody knew had ever been published. So just one more example of good things happening in research. What we have now, we're going to come up to the Free Master Index where we can take a look, and we'll type Bellew into our Free Master Index on the webpage, and it's going to come up about 41 times. I think we'll just give you 6 or 7 examples here, but there's no shortage of the name, so it's not one of the rarest ones to look for. You might just be in luck. We'll be right back to you in about 15 more seconds. Well, here's what we've got for you. We typed the name in and we came up with Bellew is in the 1659 census of Ireland, and it's also in the 1890 birth index of Ireland. That birth index, of course, is good for most of the whole 19th century, really. A few families make exceptions, but the majority of people stayed centered right in their traditional homelands in the counties. And it's also in Irish Genealogies, which is Volume 3 of Keating's History of Ireland. And it's in, it's in King James Irish Army List. You know, that covers the tumultuous 17th century in Ireland, where so many Irish were sent to the continent and ended up fighting in the armies of France and Spain. A lot of them fighting against Britain. Number 5, Tribes and Customs of High Many. That's a book we printed. It's by O'Donovan. I published that, and that's a sister volume to the Tribes and Customs of the High Fiachra. Number 6, The Families of County Cork, Ireland. We find it as spelled both Bellew and Bellowe. And of course, we find it in The Families of County Dublin that we mentioned just a little bit earlier, where the name goes back several centuries earlier than what we noted elsewhere. Well, now it's time for Around the World in Irish Ways with the web pages and the videos of the month as we find them. Number 1, Frosty Mount Bellew, Ireland. All about our stay in County Galway. It's a video. Got a link on the blog. Number 2, Golden Bellew Family Anniversary. Just a short little family video they made of a 50-year anniversary, I think. And number 3, a 3-minute guide to County Meath, Ireland attractions. That's a video. So gosh, in about 10 minutes, you're going to learn a whole lot if you want to follow up these links and if you've got any interest in Bellew or Meath. Number 4, we've got the Bellew Family Genealogy Forum. That's on a link on the blog. And that'll do it for those right now. Remember, we also have Irish video shorts up. And now we're going to curious news and notes from Ireland and all around the world today. Number 1, what is that? Have we jumped ahead of ourselves? Oh, that's right. I almost forgot. We're getting ready to bring back the Irish Song and Recitation Festival podcast for season 3. We're just now finishing up the Irish in America podcast. Got a couple left on that from the Browns interviews. And the podcast, the Irish Hedgerow History, has 1 or 2 weeks left on it. And then we're just finishing up the Hello Fada Irish language notes for the curious beginner. So we're finishing the seasons up for them, and we're starting the 3rd season of the Irish Song podcast as soon as I can get it together. Hey, if you know any Shan No singing, you might want to enter this year. I'm going to try to focus on that, so you could phone it in or bring it in right here for the festival. Now it's time for Curious News and Notes. Well, number 1, the world's top wolf whistler, crowned in Irvingstown, County Fermanagh. And, boy, that's when you know how to whistle at a pretty girl when she walks by. Is that it? I think it is. They didn't get their international contestants to show up, but plenty showed up from Ireland, and last year's champ, I guess, won 2 years in a row. Number 2, it seems companies are wanting to help determine who is entitled to purchase a certificate of Irish heritage. And I'm sure it's not aimed at the Irish that are living in Ireland, but at the Irish who aren't living in Ireland or who think they're Irish and they're living in America. I don't know. But why not sell a true Irishman a certificate? That way you could walk around Ireland and say, hey, I've got a piece of paper that says I'm Irish. But it's a commercial endeavor for sure, and I'm not sure it'll be for me, but I'm watching for it to come out to see just what it says. But more power to you if you want to frame it and put it on the wall. Number 3, some 2,000 salmon were caught just a week or so ago. And, that's always what they say. Just the week before I get there, they were hitting good. And then when I get there, everything's quiet. Then it's, you should have been here last week. Number 4, the BBC is reporting that 5,000 per month are leaving Ireland. That's 5,000 people. I've got a link to all these stories on my blog. So 5,000 per month are leaving Ireland again, so that's a reversal of recent trends. Number 5, a rare humpback whale makes its first appearance of this kind since the beginning of time, or, well, since the beginning of verified records, whatever that might mean, and it was at Rathlin Island, so I think these weather changes are bringing the whales down a different route maybe this year. And number 6, the earliest version of Sweet Molly Malone has turned up from 1790 or so in a published book. It's one of many known versions, but it's the oldest version. And she is indeed described in this song perhaps as a tart with a cart, which is what they like to say today, but not quite in those words. And wouldn't you know it, it'd turn up in a Wales bookshop. They've got some nice bookshops over there for sure if you're a visit, and you definitely want to stop and check out some of those bookshops. But that does it for today. We're at the end of everything. I remind you, you're all invited to come to the genealogical workshop or session there on Friday, August 6th in Dublin, Ohio, just before the festival. We'll have quite a show there if everybody shows up that says they're coming, so I do hope you do. And remember, they also have some music workshops, and that's the weekend of the Big Irish Festival. So many acres I can't count it anymore. They even had to build a bridge across the street after several years so they could expand the festival in another direction. It's amazing what you're going to see there. And they also bring in plenty of talent from Ireland and a whole lot of musical groups and reenactors and the whole Penelope of of Irish history in America and Ireland. You're going to enjoy it, so show up and come on out, and that's it for today. Everybody have a good one. That's all for today, folks. Joseph, warm up those pipes. Remember, we have a broadcast series on Irish song and recitation, on local history of the Irish in America, and on 2,000 years of Irish history, as well as on the counties, and something special coming up on Irish language, I hope. We've got all that and more at our head school at irishroots.com. And you know, we've been known to appear, exhibit, teach, and even sing for your special events. Be sure to book in advance if it's important. And write me at my American address at Irish Roots Cafe, Box 7575, Kansas City, Missouri, 64116. Leave a message by phone at 816-256-3360. Reach me on my webpage at irishroots.com. Skype me at the Irish Roots Cafe. Get me on MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, and Irish Central. Members foot the bill so they get first priority, but we're open to all. And by the way, a big thank you to all of our members. And away.